Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, depending where you are watching us from today. My name is Luca Belli. I'm professor at FGV Law School, where I coordinate the Center for Technology and Society at FGV. And today I will moderate this webinar on digital transformation and meaningful connectivity in the BRICS, which is part of our series of webinar on digital policies in the BRICS that we are organizing ahead of the BRICS summit that will take place here in Rio de Janeiro in July under the Brazilian presidency. And today's webinar is organized in partnership with our friends from the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Brazilian Ministry of Communications, Cetic.br, and the International Telecommunications Union. So first of all, thank you very much to all our partners for having supported us in organizing today's webinar. And let me quickly introduce our very large number of speakers for today. And then I will also provide a quick disclaimer so that we can start our webinar according to the books. So first, we will have the pleasure to welcome Marcelo Salomão Martinez, who is the head of the Division for Digital Issues at the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then we will enter the first segment of today's webinar dedicated to setting the scene, where we have some three presentations. The first one by Daniel Cavalcanti, which is General Coordinator, for Public Policies at the Brazilian Ministry for Communications. Then Graciela Castello, Sectoral Studies Coordinator at Cetic. Then Smriti Parshira, which is our Cyber BRICS associated researcher dealing with India issues. And then we will enter into a multi-stakeholder roundtable with some hopefully punchy presentations from a wide range of stakeholders. We will start with Sonia Jorge, Director of the Global Digital Inclusion Partnership. Then we'll have Abhishek Shukla, Assistant Director General at the Indian Ministry of Communications. Then we'll have Dr. Riham Muawad, who is Digital Transformation Strategies Advisor at the Ministry of ICT, Egypt, which is one of the new BRICS members that joined as of last year. Then also Dr. Hedaya Abdel Ghaffar, who is Director of Economic Affairs at the International Indicators Department of Egypt. Then we will move to Russia with Ekaterina Martinova, who is lecturer at the Higher School of Economics and also was our Cyber BRICS Fellow here in Rio last year. And then we will give the floor to Ibrahim Mama Hussein, who is a lead for digital policies at the Digital Impact Alliance in Ethiopia. Ethiopia also a new BRICS member. And then we will move to China with Professor Yu Tong, professor at Zhejiang University at the Department of Data Science and Engineering. And then last but of course not least, Wei Li, who is Deputy Director of Cloud Computing and Big Data Research at the Institute of the ICT Academy of China. Now, before getting started, let me also provide a little bit of disclaimer. Every time that we start our webinars, we need to make sure that everyone here agrees, expresses his willingness, his or her consent to be recorded. So I want to make sure that everyone here in the group is expressing his or her consent to be recorded and to have this webinar used to be shared in FGV's channels, and also stressing that everyone here is expressing his or her personal opinion, and the opinions stated today do not necessarily correspond to FGV's position. So I would request everyone to express their consent, either nodding or with thumbs up, so that we can then start our webinar. All right, perfect. So at this point, let me give you directly the floor to Marcelo Salomão Martinez for his opening, and then I will provide a little bit of introduction, and then we can enter in the first segment of today's webinar. Please, Marcelo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor, for your kind introduction. My name is Marcelo Salomão Martinez. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. I'd like to start by remembering my arrival back to Brasilia about 2 years ago when I took over this my current position, and then as all diplomats do, we had in a way to convince everyone else that we actually know what we are talking about. So as to sound knowledgeable, of course, I went to the statistics of the digital domain and telecommunications. That's where I find comfort, since I'm an engineer by formation, and I always believed that numbers are supposed to be cold portraits of reality. I left my first readings with pride, and under the impression that actually Brazil had done well its homework, and that all there was left for us to do in terms of connecting citizens was basically last mile policies for rural areas and maybe hard to reach ecosystems like the Amazon region. And then as we began preparations for the G20 work, the Ministry of Communications, with the leadership of our colleague Daniel Cavalcanti, our competent chair of this group this year, indicated that we would be addressing the issue of meaningful connectivity, which was then an ongoing discussion at the ITU. And what an eye-opener it was to see this work evolve, not just to me, but to all G20 delegates then. And very quickly, we realized that we had to address this agenda at every forum, given its importance. And if it's widely known that 1/3 of the world's population is not even connected to the internet, it is not at all clear to people how many people in the world actually have the privilege to count on the benefits of the digital domain, as we all in this call do. The reality, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it is a lot more dire than we all first assumed. And that's why we decided then to keep on pushing this agenda, either in New York or during the BRICS, so that with better numbers, we may actually be able to react as bureaucrats accordingly to reality. And this is why we're here today, in a way to learn from each other's experience and to be able to, at the end of the day, to perform our duties better and honor our responsibilities to the people and to our countries. We are here because we want to do better. Thank you very much. I'll stop here and let you experts discuss.
Thank you very much, Marcelo, for really providing us a good injection of energy to start our debates. And yes, I think that you rightly shared this intention to learn from each other's and try to do better, because there is a lot of work to be done yet, right? And I think that something that we have also in our research through our Cyber BRICS project that is dedicated to the analysis of the digital policies of the BRICS over the past 6 years. What we have highlighted is that there are enormous opportunities, but also enormous risks, enormous challenges in the digital transformation. And the BRICS experiences are particularly relevant because while most countries, if not all, have been thrown into digital transformation, especially since the pandemic, where this accelerated enormously. Very few countries and very few stakeholders, if you can say so, have a good understanding of the connection amongst the various elements of the digital transformation, data, hardware, software, and how they interact, and how connectivity is the glue that allows them to interact. And even less have a good strategy on how to to drive the process of digital transformation and regulate it. And actually, there is a strong connection. What we have also, what emerged from our research of the past years, is that there is a strong connection between digital transformation and what we ended up calling digital sovereignty. So the capacity to understand the technology, develop the technology, and regulate the technology according to your own values, in order to exercise agency, control, and self-determination over the technology that drives the digital transformation, right? And here, it's essential also to stress that, and that is why today we are speaking in this workshop, digital transformation and meaningful connectivity. That meaningful connectivity is a fundamental pillar of digital transformation. And again, here, analyzing the BRICS experiences, especially over the past 5 to 10 years, it is very evident that there are a lot of important challenges still to be faced, but also some incredible example of success. If we look at, for instance, China and India, they together have brought online 1.5 billion people over the past 10 years. It's literally 1/5 of the entire world population. If we look at Brazil or Russia, they have digitized more than 4,000 public services each over the past 5 years. That is an incredible success. But also, what is very key here to stress, and that is also very evident from Marcelo's remarks, is that fortunately we have understood and that we need to call it meaningful connectivity, not only connectivity. And here I also want to pay homage to the work that our friend Sonia George has been driving over the past 10 years, first with the Alliance for Affordable Internet and now with the Global Digital Inclusion Partnership, because we created this concept of meaningful connectivity with the Alliance 10 years ago. And to stress that connectivity must be something that creates a safe, secure environment where people are able not only to be consumers, but also producers, to actively participate. And that is far from being the reality in most countries, from Brazil to other global South countries, where people are primarily connected to social media, not to the internet. And that is a huge challenge that we still have to face. But again, BRICS experiences gives a very good understanding of what is possible and what could be replicated. And the fact that today we have with us an expanding number of friends and partners from new members of the BRICS grouping also witnesses how appealing are global South leaders' strategies, like the BRICS strategies, to other global South leaders. So to cut it short, because my worst defect as an academic is that I always speak too much, I would like to start this first segment of today's workshop to give the floor to Daniel Cavalcanti to understand a little bit what is the work that the Ministry of Communications is spearheading together with BRICS partners in the BRICS ICT working group, and what could be expected as priorities for this presidency. Please, Daniel, very good to have you with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Lucabelli. It's definitely a great pleasure to join you here today. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I'd like to begin by, of course, congratulating FGV for hosting this webinar on digital transformation and meaningful connectivity as a side event to the work of our BRICS ICT working group. Indeed, this event is very much in the spirit of our working group, both sharing research and knowledge and shaping consensus views among BRICS countries on relevant topics that are on the global ICT policy agenda. When we look at BRICS, we've made great progress since 2019, the last time Brazil hosted the BRICS. And by the way, I was chairing the BRICS ICT working group back then. Today, we are 11 BRICS countries, and we have a very substantial policy agenda, cooperation in research and development through the BRICS Institute of Future Networks, and a number of forums and side events such as this one. As you know, digital transformation has been on the agenda of the BRICS ICT working group now for many years. If you look at ministerial declarations starting in 2021 in India, all the way through 2022 in China, 2023 in South Africa, and 2024 in Russia last year, they have all acknowledged that advancing digital transformation and developing digital economies within BRICS countries can build national competitive advantages. As well, more recently, meaningful connectivity has also been on the agenda of the BRICS ICT working group. In 2023 in Cape Town and 2024 in Kazan. Last year, the ministerial declarations acknowledged that universal and meaningful connectivity plays a key role in facilitating digital transformation. So we are all very much aware of these priorities. And to pick up on something that Marcelo Martinez has just mentioned, interestingly, also last year when Brazil hosted the G20 Digital Economy Working Group, by the way, that forum in which BRICS countries fully participate either as members or as guest countries, at that particular instance or forum, we made significant progress in broadening the consensus on universal and meaningful connectivity as a key policy priority, with a strong ministerial statement and expanding the set of indicators to measure what we call meaningful connectivity. So digital inclusion, universality, and meaningful connectivity were central themes at the G20 Digital Economy Working Group. A document was produced in collaboration with the International Telecommunication Union, the ITU, and it's called Universal and Meaningful Connectivity, a framework for indicators and metrics. It outlined 6 key dimensions for evaluating universal and meaningful connectivity: connection quality, availability of use, affordability, devices, digital skills, as well as safety and security. It also includes a list of indicators for measuring what we call UMC, Universal and Meaningful Connectivity. This is the basis for some of the most advanced UMC surveys that are being conducted in countries today. And I'll stop at that topic here, but I know my colleague Graziella Castello will pick up on that pretty soon. So now in 2025, at the BRICS ICT Working Group, universal and meaningful connectivity is one of the 4 priorities we have selected for this year. And we are developing a snapshot report on where BRICS countries are in terms of implementing the goals and targets of UMC. By the way, our other 3 topics for this year's work of the ICT Working Group are space sustainability, a very up-to-date issue, so to speak, because there are major concerns on the number of devices we're sending out into space. We're going to have a priority on environmental sustainability, which ties in how digital can contribute to the goals and targets of another event Brazil is going to hold later on this year, the COP30. So environmental sustainability is, again, a very important topic this year. And lastly, we have a broader topic, which we are calling the digital ecosystem, and how this expanding digital ecosystem has required countries and governments to adapt their governance mechanisms. So these are the 4 topics we have for this year at the BRICS ICT Working Group. But going back to our focus here, so our priority number 1 is universal and meaningful connectivity. Meaningful connectivity is understood as that which allows for a safe user experience that brings satisfaction, is enriching, productive, and at an affordable cost or price. In fact, the 2 dimensions, universal and meaningful, reinforce each other. The more universal the use, the more meaningful the connectivity. And the more meaningful the connectivity, the more universalization advances because of the perception of value of this connectivity. This meaningful connectivity is the key to a true digital transformation of society. So very briefly, I would like to summarize and mention what I believe are a few important insights coming from our work for our current work at the BRICS ICT Working Group. So number one, digital connectivity infrastructure is an essential prerequisite for digital transformation. However, it is now clear, especially after the pandemic, that this connectivity needs to be qualified, which is to say that connectivity that provides all those elements of the meaningful connectivity. Number two, as widespread access to the internet becomes a reality, universal and meaningful connectivity becomes this important focus of public policies. Number three, it is up to governments to build a process of digital transformation of countries and fully participate in the digital economy. The digital economy is the new dynamic axis of the global economy, growing at a faster pace than the economy as a whole. The challenge is to spread the benefits of this digital economy to all. Number four, digital skills, one of the extended elements of meaningful connectivity, are essential for people to participate in the digital environment and enjoy the full benefits of the digital transformation of government as a service provider, digital transformation of the economy with new services and jobs, and digital transformation of society itself with a new online space for interaction, culture, and leisure. And lastly, number five, today we have reached a very unique global consensus as to the absolute priority to address the challenges of universal and meaningful connectivity. Funding, of course, is an issue of great concern and has been the focus of development finance institutions, as well as multilateral forums, such as the BRICS here and the G20. The good news is that some initiatives have made progress, such as the ITU-led Digital Infrastructure Investment Initiative, as well as the Connect Humanity Initiative. By the way, Connect Humanity started at the G20 in 2020, when, as Luca Belli has mentioned, Sonia Jorge provided through the Alliance for the Affordable Internet a base document that served for the discussions and the outcomes of the G20 Digital Economy Working Group back then in 2020 in Saudi Arabia. So these two initiatives are gaining traction. And furthermore, digital infrastructure priorities will be prominent in the upcoming UN Finance for Development Conference, which will take place later on this year in June in Spain. So to wrap it up, I would say that everyone is aware of the priorities, and we certainly hope we make progress on financing, which is a key issue. And we as BRICS countries should reflect on what our tasks are ahead to ensure this transition in the digital economy of which we can all benefit. So thank you very much. I'll leave it at that. And back to you, Professor Luca Belli.
Thank you very much for the very insightful comments, and also for being very precise with time management, which I very much appreciate. And I think that there are some very interesting points here in what Dr. Daniel was mentioning, especially. I think what is starting already to emerge is that we have a very multi-dimensional and multi-layered challenge in terms both of understanding connectivity and digital transformation. And probably, and this is actually what emerges also from our research. Those countries, those entities that have been more successful in driving, shaping their digital transformation are those who have understood this complexity and try to define a strategy, a process to connect all the dots and leverage them. So this actually leads me to the second presentation of today by Dr. Graciela Castello from Cetic.br, and she has been leading sectoral studies of Cetic, which is one of the most renowned technical institutions of Brazil, in terms of understanding what meaningful connectivity means and to what extent Brazil has achieved meaningful connectivity. And I remember last year when you released the first study on meaningful connectivity, I was very happy about this because it gives a different types of picture to what we were used to have before, and provides us a lot of food for thought in terms of what still needs to be done. Please, Graciela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Luca, very much. Good morning to all here from Brazil. Let me share my screen with you. Let's go. Let's see. Here, are you seeing that? Yeah. Okay.
Almost, yes.
Perfect. I'm Graciela Castelo. I'm coordinator of sectoral studies at Cetic.br. It's a pleasure to be here with amazing colleagues and other excellent, brilliant people. I just would like to start thanking Getúlio Vargas Foundation for organizing this important event in an issue that's, for me, it's particularly important. At Cetic.br, part of NIC.br, we have been working since 2005 to understand and measure the impact of digital technologies on the Brazilian society. Over the past year, we've placed particular emphasis on the concept of meaningful connectivity, and this focus had led to a collaboration with FICLAC to measure meaningful connectivity across Latin America, and the topic has also become, as my colleagues mentioned, one of the key priorities of the G20 economy working group during the Brazilian presidency in 2024. And now it's one of the priorities of the BRICS ICT working group as well during the Brazilian presidency this year. It's from this perspective, centered on measurement, that I will share my brief remarks with you today. We must move beyond the assumption that simply having access to the internet ensures true digital inclusion. To fully understand people's connectivity conditions, we need a multidimensional approach, one that considers not only access, but also the types of devices used, the quality of the connections, the affordability of equipments, and the opportunities for meaningful use across different settings and with the desired intensity. This is where the concept of meaningful connectivity becomes essential, not only for measuring digital inclusion, but also for shaping effective public policies. Let's see. Here. In my presentation today, I will begin by sharing some key indicators on internet access in Brazil, based on 2024 edition of the ICT Household Survey, which Cetic.br has been conducted continuously for the past 20 years. Then I will give you a brief overview of the history behind the concept of meaningful connectivity as a measurement tool. And finally, I will present our most recent findings on meaningful connectivity in Brazil, using the framework that we developed at Cetic, but from results of 2024. So, first, let me start with the internet access in Brazil. Today, 83% of the Brazilian population, of the Brazilian households, have internet access. While this is close to universal coverage, significant gaps remain in the country, especially between rural and urban areas and among households with different socioeconomic conditions. For example, while all Class A households, the healthiest, are connected, only 68% of households in the lowest economic level, Class D, have internet access today. When we look at internet users in Brazil, 84% of the Brazilian population are online. This number rises above 90% among younger people, those with higher education, and individuals with higher socioeconomic classes. From a gender perspective, internet access is practically equal between men and women. But it's important to remember that the 16% who are not online represent about 29 million people in Brazil. That's the population of an entire country like Venezuela, excluded from the digital world. These individuals are mostly in remote areas and economically vulnerable groups. We urgently need target policies to reach these populations. At the same time, it would be naive to assume that the nearly 90% of users in Brazil all enjoy equal digital conditions. That's precisely why the concept of meaningful connectivity is so crucial for assessing and promoting digital inclusion. Here, I will briefly walk you through some of the key milestones in the development of indicators and conceptual frameworks for measuring meaningful connectivity. Mostly the people behind this history are here today, so I'm very glad to present and talk about it. It's very, very brief. In recent years, research on digital inclusion has increasingly emphasized the link between meaningful connectivity and the empowerment of socially marginalized groups. In 2020, the E4AI, Alliance for Affordable Internet, the current DDIP, Global Digital Inclusion Partnership, published Meaningful Connectivity, a new target to raise the bar for internet access. This document proposed using meaningful connectivity as a tool to improve how we measure internet access and to support more ambitious and comprehensive policy goals. Based on input from international experts and applied in different countries, the A4AI framework defined 4 core dimensions for measuring meaningful connectivity: connection speed, devices, data packet availability, and frequency of use. Then, in 2022, the ITU, International Telecommunication Union, built on this work by publishing its own framework. According to the ITU, meaningful connectivity is defined as a level of connectivity that allows users to have a safe, satisfying, enriching, and productive online experience at an affordable cost. The ITU's proposal organized metrics into 2 categories, one for universalization and the other for connectivity enablers. These included infrastructure, affordability, digital skills, and cybersecurity. In April 2024, we at Cetic.br released the publication Meaningful Connectivity, Measurement Proposals and a Portrait of the Brazilian Population. This study introduced a new framework for measuring meaningful connectivity in Brazil, moving beyond simple access to also consider the quality and the context of use. Our findings from 2023 revealed that only 22% of the Brazilians were meaningfully connected, even though 84% of the Brazilians were internet users at the time. This evident contrast highlights the depth of our digital inequality. We also found strong correlations between meaningful connectivity and higher digital skills, as well as deep disparities between geography, income, and other social factors. And finally, still in 2024, under Brazil's presidency of the G20, the Digital Economy Working Group named universal and meaningful connectivity as one of its 4 key priorities. As part of this agenda, Cetic.br collaborated with ITU and the Brazilian Ministry of Communications to produce the report Universal and Meaningful Connectivity, a framework for indicators and metrics that was presented by my colleague Daniel before. As he said, this framework includes 6 core dimensions: connection quality, availability for use, affordability, device, digital skills, and safety and security. The document also emphasized the importance of collecting disaggregated data, since national averages often hide critical disparities. This framework was summarized as an annex in the G20 Maceió Ministerial Declaration on Digital Inclusion for All, published in September 2024, and it was supported by all the G20 countries. Now, I will briefly present some recent results on meaningful connectivity in Brazil, based on our framework developed by Cetic, and drawing from the most up-to-date data from 2024. Just to remind you, this framework was published in last year, this pink book, and it originally presented data from 2023. To briefly recap, the model is based on 9 indicators grouped in 4 dimensions: Each individual in our survey receives a score from 0 to 9, depending on whether they meet certain criteria in each of the 9 indicators. For the analysis, we classified the population into 4 levels of meaningful connectivity, ranging from those with the weakest conditions, 0 to 2, a score of 0 to 2, or until those we consider meaningfully connected, scoring 7 to 9. In 2024, we saw a stable picture compared to 2023. Only 22% of the Brazilians reached the highest level of meaningful connectivity, while 34% of the population remained at the lowest level. Looking back over the years, we do see gradual improvement, but the pace of progress remains far too slow. Also, in 2024, we observed huge inequalities across different populational groups. People living in rural areas, in the North and Northeast regions, women, and those in lower socioeconomic classes consistently show worse indicators of meaningful connectivity. In this context, access to digital opportunities remains extremely limited, especially for those historically excluded. And just to close, I would like to share with you one final slide. A simple look at the historical trends in our indicator, broken down by gender, shows the importance of producing ongoing and granular data to truly understand the problem. Even if progress has been slow, overall results show that Brazil is gradually moving forward. However, when we compare men and women, the picture becomes far more concerning. Among men, the percentage of those meaningfully connected has steadily increased, and the proportion of those with good connectivity now equals to those with poor connectivity. For women, however, this curve has stagnated since 2022. The proportion of women meaningfully connected is almost twice as low as the women with poor connectivity. This highlights the urgency of continuous monitoring using disaggregated data to expose and address persistent inequality. Consistent monitoring is essential to guide public policies that guarantee high-quality digital access for all. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, presenting the advances of this debate, the agenda of measuring meaningful and universal and meaningful connectivity is still evolving. It's a dynamic field open to further refinement. As technology evolves and new challenges and needs emerge, our measurement frameworks must evolve too. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very thorough picture of the evolution and the current state of Brazilian connectivity and meaningful connectivity. And I think that what is very interesting here and what we are very much starting highlighting is that the stark difference that we can have in indicators when we consider what is usually called as internet access, which is according to ITU criteria having accessed the internet once over the past 2 or 3 months, with the reality and the complexity of connectivity and all the qualitative, not only quantitative indicators that we need to introduce into our equation to understand the reality and to create policies that really manage to cope and solve the challenges and produce what we would call a people-centered digital transformation. Now, let's now move from Brazil, that has been very much discussed over the past minutes, and let's move to another giant, India. Smriti Parshira, you have been working with us, also contributing to our to the development of our tool and our mapping on connectivity across BRICS countries that everyone here can find on cyberbrics.info. But actually, as Graciela was mentioning very well, this is a very fast evolving dynamic target not only in terms of the connectivity, but in our case, also of the BRICS grouping, because our tool is already outdated because we have 6 new countries now to analyze. So to have a little bit of understanding of the complexity, also in terms of policies, please, Smriti, the floor is yours to provide us a picture of India's trip to digital transformation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Luca. It's a pleasure to be here. I have a few slides. Let me just share my screen. Okay, I hope that's visible. Okay, perfect.
It's not in full screen mode yet.
Yeah, I'm just... All right, okay. So as Professor Belli introduced, this is some work that we have been doing at the Cyber BRICS project, really in a way, of course, connecting with what we've been discussing, but also kind of thinking about meaningful connectivity in the next layer, that when you start having government service and private services at scale being provisioned on the backbone of the assumption of digital connectivity, really, how does that fare in terms of outcomes? So that was really the goal of this project and this particular paper that I will be presenting, which was published last year, which looks at the digital transformation strategy in India, focusing on what is called the India Stack framework. So I'll introduce what that framework is, try to connect it with the questions that we've been hearing so far around meaningful connectivity and some of the lessons that that could leave us with as many more countries start thinking about their DPI strategies. So this is something, it's of older vintage, but certainly with a lot of focus since 2015, where the government adopted something known as the Digital India strategy. And the idea is very consciously how to move towards a digitally empowered society. And a lot of pillars were identified, and, connectivity, creating infrastructure was one of them, government services on demand. So e-governance was one of them, and overall empowerment of citizens to be engaging in the digital space was another one of them. And of course, coming from a context where until about, less than 10 years back, we had pretty poor outcomes in terms of internet access. That situation has changed drastically since 2016, not necessarily only because of this program, but because of changes we saw in the mobile telephony ecosystem, where we saw, really competition playing up, where we saw the entry of a large player, and suddenly we saw within a matter of 1 or 2 years, very drastic changes in terms of the composition, the depth of mobile access and connectivity that happened, and the other players cut down their prices. So really, it was competition at play, which gave a real boost to digital internet access and connectivity in India, I would say from 2016 onwards. Today, we are in a state where, in terms of the numbers put out by the government, the number of, I think, internet users is around 950 million. But we're still talking about a population of 1.3 plus billion. So there is still a gap of people who are not connected. And amongst those who are connected, of course, there is the questions we've been hearing in the Brazilian context. The gender divide still remains drastically coming down over the years. But it is a divide that is very real, also real, not just in terms of how many people have access to the internet, but really, through what kind of device do they have access to the internet? So is it a device that is suitable for doing digital payments, or is it just that they have a mobile subscription and an internet subscription? Similarly, questions about digital skills, about comfort on being online, questions around, as in everywhere in the world, India is facing a big increase in digital frauds. Financial inclusion has led to a side effect of that happening. And I think those are questions which will shape our understanding of meaningful connectivity and comfort and trust in the digital ecosystem. So with that background, let me just talk about this India Stack framework. And this is, again, something that's been in discussion since around 2016. The idea is to think about the key digital pillars, to build a digital ecosystem. And the way India Stack envisages is in the form of 4 layers. So at the bottom of it is the digital identity layer. On top of it, which is called the presence-less layer, the paperless layer on top of that, where you can authenticate and digitally sign documents without, face-to-face being required to meet each other. The cashless layer, which by many accounts is one of the most, powerful and successful applications of India Stack, which is the unified payments interface, a fast payment system, which is currently seeing, I think, about 16 to 17 billion transactions in a month. So very widely adopted. And finally, something more recent, but which is seeing a lot of emphasis, is the consent management layer. That how do you create a framework where, people can, with consent, allow their personal data to be transferred from one entity to the other using an electronic consent artifact. So that's really the overview, and each of these products has had, its own history, its own political economy of how it came about. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but there is some trends which unify these technologies and these ideas. One is, of course, the idea of state backing. So the fact that the government either owns or very actively promotes each of these inputs. The other is of public and private collaboration, that all of these things have either been developed collaboratively or they've been developed, within the government, but the private sector has the way to engage on these platforms using open APIs and using interoperability. And finally, the data-centric nature of this whole exercise, where data is really kind of at the essence of the way the deployments are taking place. The design of it is about, how do you leverage and empower people based on their data. So that's really been the thinking around this. This, of course, I'll just briefly illustrate the last architecture that I was talking about. So, for instance, if you have, a credit company on one side and a bank on the other side, and there's a customer in the middle, this infrastructure is the consent manager who will allow this transfer to take place from one entity. So instead of me having to give my bank statements to the other entity, will take my consent and will be able to electronically manage this consent and allow the data to flow without itself seeing the data. So in that sense, it's data blind, and it's a way to positioned as a way to allow that data flow to take place in a safe environment with the consent of the user. So there are great ideas in here. This is also something which has evolved to many, many other sectors besides the one that I adopted. It's been adopted, it was adopted during the pandemic in the health sector. Questions around use of API have been going around in the digital health ecosystem, in the financial sector for sure. But so there are multiple applications which are there. And for those of you who've been following the DPI strategy would also know that this is very much part of India's global strategy now. So not only is it a digital transformation strategy in-house in the country, it is also something that India has taken efforts to advocate at scale on the global platforms, such as using the G20 platform during its presidency. So that's the background of it. And what the paper does is one of the things is to acknowledge all the progress that has taken place and all the good work that has happened. But the other is, trying to calibrate some of these outcomes and questions against the underlying questions of where we are on the infrastructure, where we are as a society in terms of readiness of the population to take on these digital technologies. How are we doing our risk management? How collaborative is all of this? So this paper used the OECD's good practice guidelines because it was written before the UN had its own very specific guidelines and guardrails around DPI, but this was written before that. So I looked at the OECD's good practice to try to just look at what are the benchmarks or what are the principles that are advocated when doing government design and delivery using digital technologies. And very broadly, I'll say that there are three pillars that the guidelines talked about, that you build accessible, equitable systems, that you do this at scale and you do this with pace, and you build systems that are accountable and transparent. And I think of these three, the second one is the one which has seen tremendous emphasis and tremendous success in terms of scale and pace and impact, just because of the sheer, numbers and the volume of transactions that we are talking about in India. But the paper also realizes that, there are some other questions we need to talk about. The idea of saying that, everybody is online and therefore we can adopt a mobile first or digital first strategy. That's something that came to be questioned during the pandemic, when we did see, as we heard in the Brazilian context, we did see the real fissures in that divide showing up when it was a life and death situation where digital connectivity was the only mean to access to education for a lot of people, for access to health service. And we did see some of those divides popping up in that context. The question of building, all of these infrastructures collaboratively. So, meaningful connectivity should not just be about meaningful presence online, but meaningful presence in these debates where such important infrastructures are being considered and thought about. So how do we expand, participation into that level, participation even in building the infrastructure and in building the standards, which will then become standards for the whole society. So questions around participation in that. And then accountability lags which can occur, because very often when you're emphasizing scale, there is a possibility that you will push back some of the things, such as the idea of a data protection law, which is something that India adopted only in 2023. It's something which has still not been notified. But all of these technologies, as I said, are using and advocating the use of data at large scale. So those questions are something which have come up. So to conclude, the paper really talks about the suite of digital products that India has built, how that is part of a deliberate strategy and how that has aided its movement towards digital governance. But it also talks about the need for calibrated understanding of how do these realities tie up with the ground realities of the access, the implementation, connectivity, governance challenges inside the country, and really how can we bridge this gap through active engagement with stakeholders in the research, civil society, and even in the business community. So I'll stop with that. Thank you.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Smriti, for providing a very brief yet intense overview of the multiple outcomes of the research you developed with us over the past years. This is really very interesting because it adds further layers of complexity in terms of, I really like the fact that you mentioned calibrating the outcomes and actually having a continuous assessment of the kind of impact, but also risks that the process of digital transformation we are shaping it can present in correcting them, right? Again, in the perspective of not only using quantitative but also qualitative metrics to assess our work. Now let's enter with this our multi-stakeholder roundtable, where I would like to have our panelists providing their thoughts on what are still not only what are the successes that we have achieved, but what are the challenges that we still have ahead of us. To open this multi-stakeholder roundtable, I would like to give the floor to my good friend Sonia Jorge, with whom we have been cooperating and for I think at least a decade, including developing the first concept of meaningful connectivity. And so I believe, Sonia, no one better than you knows what we have achieved, but really what are still the huge problems and challenges that we need to face. So please, Sonia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Luca. Let me ask you, do you see my screen? Fantastic. Excellent. I just want to make sure because we do get a different view when we're sharing. So first of all, thank you so much, Luca and FGV and the government of Brazil and the entire BRICS organization for organizing these super important event. Really, really proud to be here. And I have to say, after hearing all of you in the first hour of the event, I feel not only very content, but really pleased to see how this idea of universal meaningful connectivity has really flown and established itself so well across so many different spaces and thinking and research, which is really, for me, the ultimate show of success, right? When you do policy and regulatory advocacy on how digital inclusion and really human-centered thinking about digital inclusion takes place, it's really the ultimate show of how all of you not only are embracing these, but really the success of how we need to think better, how we need to be better players, active players in this collective effort that all of us are part of to continue to push for better policy that brings more people online. And so you asked me to address the question about how did meaningful connectivity came about. I think you already gave a little bit of the story. Graciela also mentioned how Cetic started using the framework. And what I wanted to say is that it really started from these incredible commitment to the idea and the desire that we have to think about policy and regulatory actions, not just in a vacuum, but as part of a societal process in the public interest. Everything that we do, that we think about, it's about benefiting the public. And when we think about the public, is humans, right? Is all of us, all of our humanity, and all of the people in the world that we want to impact. And that is no different when we think about digital inclusion and digital ecosystems and a digital economy, a digital society, all of these terms and ideas that in fact are about bringing people together and connecting people in a better way. And so we, as an organization, we are the Global Digital Inclusion Partnership. And as many of you mentioned, we used to be indeed the Alliance A4AI, that so many of you know, but we've changed names. So please look at our website, and all of the resources are there, including the history of all of these concepts, the methodological policy frameworks that were developed to support the work that all of you are doing. And we are always happy to talk to all of you as you want to expand these in your countries. We work with many countries already in that process, and together with Cetic and many other partners in regions, we continue to do that. But this concept really came from that desire to go beyond thinking about affordability, and affordability even across different kinds of income groups in global majority countries, but really the focus on understanding the digital experience, right? And I think Graciela and many of you already mentioned some of these dimensions that this includes. And so I wanted to start by just sharing this visual with all of you that I think is quite telling, and I really like, because it not only reflects the history, but it also reflects the evolution of this concept of meaningful connectivity, which really started from understanding affordability of connectivity and affordability across many groups of populations around the world, and moved into the kind of more technical foundations, as we like to call, of meaningful connectivity, the speed, the data, the frequency, and the kinds of devices that everyone needs to have access to really fully benefit from the opportunity that digital can bring to us. So as Graciela already pointed out, and also Smriti with the experience in India, it makes no sense for a country to think about these ambitious plans of bringing deep, digital public infrastructure and digital public services online, when in fact the government becomes part of the problem by excluding all of those that cannot be part of the digital opportunity, right? So if a government is putting all of their digital public services as the center on how they provide services to their populations, and over 50% of the population being women, rural, poor, don't actually have access to the devices that allow them to benefit from those services, we are being part of the problem. And so we have to change the way we think about policy, and especially policy that is meant to be in the public interest, to center on the people, to center on those services that we need to provide to people and humanity. And that's why this concept is not only evolving, but it needs to account for all of these dimensions, right? Not just affordability, all of the technical elements, but very importantly, this supportive social environment, an environment that brings people the comfort, the safety, the privacy, the protection, and the skills to enjoy digital opportunity in its full, in its full possibilities. And so this is why we call it an evolving concept. I think that, for example, as India and other countries beyond Brazil, and all of you that are represented here today are starting to embark on the meaningful connectivity measurement, understanding of the picture of meaningful connectivity in your countries, you are going to start understanding and really unmasking the full realities of what digital inclusion looks like or not in your country. And so these are all very important. I think India has just started that process, and I can't wait to see. I was just in Delhi 2 weeks ago and spoke to some really wonderful people that are investing a lot of time and thinking into these. And I think many of you we will hear, I will not cover their countries, are also thinking about that. So we have an incredible journey to really move forward together collectively here. And ultimately, it's about us coming together as a world, as a global community, to make sure that not only we don't leave anyone behind with this idea of meaningful connectivity, but we use the concept of meaningful connectivity to ensure that we do not allow for any sorts of divides, any sorts of gaps, being gender, social class, race, geographic, what have you. And that's really important for us to commit to as a community. And I wanted to share with you as well as we move forward on these that
Sonia, may I just ask you to wrap up, because I was sending messages in the chat.
Oh, sorry, I don't
keep
see them.
Track of, oh, sorry. So I will. Can you just wrap up in 1 minute, please?
Absolutely.
Because, yes, thank you very much.
Absolutely. And so I'll just share with you that there's a lot that needs to be thought through on these issues. And we are pleased to continue doing the research and really challenging our ideas as we learn more, how we also need to improve our thinking about it. And so take a look at the series of research that we've started. We are actually going into the field as we speak with more countries in this connected resilience research series that looks at what does meaningful connectivity look like in practice. And so as you look through that, and of course, engage in conversations with us and this community here on this call. And of course, our objective always is to make sure that we can have many more people, not only having meaningful connectivity, but so that meaningful connectivity is really the framework and platform for opportunity in the world. Thank you so much, Luca.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sonia, also for stressing the relevance of first not discussing policies in silos, in a vacuum, and then to have people at the center of discussion. And here is a very good segue to bring into the discussion Dr. Abhishek Shukla, Assistant Director General at the Indian Ministry of Communications, precisely looking at what type of work, gigantic work India has been doing, connecting almost 700 million people in the past 5 or 6 years, but still having almost 400 million people to connect. So please, Dr. Abhishek, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much, BRICS Chair. Thank you so much, Brazil, for putting a lot of efforts to materialize the BRICS ICT working group and to energize with different sessions. And this year, what I liked was the thematic sessions that they have planned. And it is very attractive to engage in the between also, rather than having just working group meetings. So I express my pleasure on behalf of Indian government to have got an opportunity to represent the India's ICT infrastructure development, to connect the unconnected and to roll out the services to bridge the digital divide and to leverage the ICTs even to the rural and remote locations. So with that, I would just like to highlight that it was not possible just because the telecom policies were there. It means we tried to achieve this gigantic numbers because of the policies, as well as all our operators, those who were there to invest a lot of capex in the new emerging technologies. So with that, I would just like to take you all to the telecom sector snapshot in India. And we are pleased to announce that we have our network readiness index of 49th rank, when we are the second rank in the mobile broadband internet tariff within the country. When it comes to the smartphone usage, as smartphone affordability and using of the smartphones for digital services, we are the second largest, and we have crossed 1 billion mobile smartphones by 2025. And we stand 15th rank in terms of mobile broadband speed. just because of massive 5G rollout that was enabled in 2023. And the 5G services in India have been rolled out over 700 districts with over 500,000 base stations nationwide across the length and breadth of the country. And this led to a reduction of 96.75% you can say tariffs. Because of this massive rollout by the operators, we were able to tap much more population, bridge the digital divide, as well as leverage these technologies to provide e-governance facilities to the citizens. When we come to the telecom connectivity indicators in India, we have approximately 1,190 plus million telecom subscribers, which comprises both wireless as well as wireline. When it comes to the internet subscribers, it indicates the internet access to by the population. We have 971 plus million internet subscribers in the country, with an average consumption of over 21 GB. When it comes to the affordability, I would just like to highlight that the affordability of data tariffs in India is just 1 GB cost approximately 16 cents. That is very affordable. And it has been possible because of the massive telecom infrastructure with 813,000 telecom towers with 3.55 million route kilometers of optical fibers connecting all the parts of the country. When it comes to the digital infrastructure for digital inclusion, we have the world's biggest BharatNet project that connects the rural part, especially for the rural part, because we had certain places. The terrains of India are different. It has hills, it has mountains, it has island territory also. So not all the part was viable by the telecom operators to roll out their services. So in that regard, we have launched BharatNet project in 2011 by the cabinet, and to provide affordable broadband access to the last mile user who is in the rural place. So in that regard, we have created digital highways, and we have been able to connect over 214,000 gram panchayats. Gram panchayats means village clusters. From village clusters, we will be connecting to villages to provide FTTH services to the household. So all these figures are a testimony for our tireless efforts by the Indian government officers, by BharatNet project's employees, so to roll out these services. All these figures are just indicative that whatever the policy changes have been done by the government to roll out affordable broadband services, to onboard new users, and to mainstream them with the new services. So in that, it is not that only the terrestrial network has been laid out. We have been also able to connect the island territories in India. We have Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep, two island clusters in India. So in Andaman and Nicobar, over 2,300 optical 2,300 route kilometers of submarine cable was laid with an outlay of 145 million. In Lakshadweep Island, we were able to lay more than 1,800 kilometers of submarine cable with an outlay of 127 million. It showcases our determination to provide high-speed broadband connectivity even to the island population that is residing over there. And when it comes to the service, we have been able to achieve 4G saturation projects in some parts of the country. We have still our dedicated targets to commission new towers from Universal Service Obligation Fund to provide high-speed connectivity in the tough terrains, rural and remote locations, through satellite connectivity, through optical fiber, through convergence of terrestrial as well as non-terrestrial. So in that, still we have a lot of work to do. So keeping keeping in view the massive rollout that has to be done, and that bridging the digital divide as well as providing the affordable connectivity, National Broadband Mission was commissioned by the government with a vision to fast track the growth of digital communication infrastructure, to bridge the digital divide, and to facilitate the digital empowerment as well as inclusion of all the citizens and the people throughout the territory. And these all were launched with the principles of universality, affordability, as well as quality. And the key achievements that we were able to derive of this BharatNet.
Dr. Abhishek, can I ask you to wrap up in 1 minute, please? Thank you very much.
Sure. I'll just wrap in 1 minute. So all these numbers, like after this focused approach of National Broadband Mission, we have been able to escalate the rollout of ICT infrastructure in the country, as well as onboard new broadband subscribers. And we have been able to come up with the policies so as to we have come up with the ROW right of way, the sort of easing mechanism, so that new services can be rolled out as fast as within 15 days. And we have amended BharatNet program, and the salient features of this program is that we have already under BharatNet 1 and 2, there was a vision to cover 2.5 lakh gram panchayats or 250,000 gram panchayats. Now we have a vision to cover 640,000 gram panchayats, and we have a monitoring mechanism so as to roll out the services faster. We have targeted to provide connectivity to the fiber connectivity to the last mile, and all these numbers are a testament that we are fully committed to roll out affordable, universal broadband service to provide the to leverage the digital public infrastructures developed by the developed in-house or developed by the government, or so that last mile e-government facilities may be provided by the government to the user at a click. So the BharatNet amended program has a total outlay of 16.28 billion, which itself is a very huge pledge that the government has done so as to roll out universal services in the country. With that, I would just like to thank you, Chair, for giving me an opportunity to present these massive numbers from India in terms of ICT infrastructure that we have developed, and still a lot to go and a lot to means roll out in terms of connecting the unconnected. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dr. Abhishek. And I think that what is emerging also here in terms of complexity is not only the kind of challenges we need to face in terms of building infrastructure, but also what is the purpose of building this infrastructure, allowing people to learn, to be connected, to be engaged, to communicate, to build new enterprises, new services, and to grow their customer base as entrepreneurs, and to have domestic innovation and creation of businesses and empowerment of citizens. And actually here, in a further element of complexity in our thinking about infrastructure that is very important for our debate today on digital transformation, is also another type of infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure, that then supports all the services we use, right? Be it public or private services. And so it's very interesting to have today with us Dr. Wei Li, who is the Deputy Director of Cloud Computing and Big Data Research Institute of the China Academy of ICTs. And Dr. Wei Li, thank you very much for being with us. And please, the floor is yours to let us understanding how China has envisioned this digital transformation in terms of cloud computing and big data. Thank you very much.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
yes,
I'm
thank you.
muted just now. Okay, I'll start my presentation. And thanks, the chairman. And I want to share some China's perspective and practice for digital transformation and meaningful connectivity, maybe focusing on cloud computing and AI and big data, some fields. Okay, next slide. Okay. Okay, at first, I want to introduce China Digital Economy and Transformation Survey. Okay, in China, the scale of China's digital economy is steadily growing. In 2023, the scale of China's digital economy reached 53.9 trillion yuan and increased 7.4% compared to the previous year. So in the digital economy framework, we think that enterprise digitalization is the cornerstone of the basement of the framework. So to promote digital economy, at first we must boost enterprise digitalization because enterprise digitalization can promote industrial digitalization. So this is the first viewpoint. And next, CICT is the third part of China. So we conduct some survey on enterprise digitalization. We see that enterprise digitalization varies from different industries. In China, enterprise digital transformation is a new phase in the development of information technology. It refers to the comprehensive integration of enterprises with digital technologies like cloud computing, AI, big data. And we build a dual curve of enterprise digital transformation development in the picture. You can see in the dual curve, and it is clearly shows the stages of enterprise transformation with different digital degrees from various industries. For example, enterprise with high digital native degree, then they will have a high stage in the transformation. So in China, more and more enterprise, especially in the traditional industries, are growing up with digital native philosophy. Digital native philosophy, that means using AI, cloud computing, and big data to enable their products, improve efficiency, and innovate commercial models, such as Shein, 元气森林, and so on. And we establish standards to evaluate the effectiveness of digital transformation. So CICT has developed a digital transformation maturity model called IOMM. That means intelligence and operation maturity model. That means intelligence and the technology and operation business mixed degree. So this model can assist enterprise in designing for digital transformation, planning transformation pathways, assessing transformation capability levels. It built 6 core capabilities and achieve 6 key values. It have 5 level maturity. So in the second part, I will share some digital public goods and public infrastructure in China, some related works. Digital public goods is international definition. And so in China, we build standards, reports, and practice for DPG. For example, the standards. We build the DPG's interoperability and expansion capabilities for DPTs to evaluate. And for example, the research report on DPG public goods, we put some survey on the DPG public goods. And also we publish case studies of digital public goods in China in AI, operation system, and database. So we can introduce some DPGs from China to the international market. And for the connectivity, especially the infrastructure connectivity, in China, to promote computing resource connectivity, we build a platform gathering computing resources from different providers, different architectures, and different available zones, and defining the interoperability APIs to help the different computing resources to interoperability. So it's I think it's a very meaningful work. At last, I will introduce the international version of the digital infrastructure public service platform. So in the platforms, we gather in 11 global digital public goods covering multiple industries and 112 cloud service providers overseas services, and 50 plus service from DeepSeek. So in the on the platform, customers can select their favorite DPGs or some industries service. So I think maybe in the future we can communicate on this international platform. Thank you. That's all of my presentation. Thank you
very much, Dr. Whaley. This is really excellent to really understand the kind of thinking behind China's digital transformation. Actually, the China's, let's say, style of assessing, identifying metrics. I really enjoyed your metrics on the effectiveness of digital transformation and also this new phase of enterprise digital transformation and connectivity, which is very much something China has been focusing on, nurturing a domestic environment for enterprises that could become even tech giant and tech leaders, as we have seen lately, for instance, with DeepSeek, and also the consequent integration of the technology in what other startups and enterprise can use for their digital transformation. Very good. Now let's try to move to one of the newcomers we have today, so Egypt, to understand how also the new BRICS are facing these issues that other BRICS countries have been facing, have been communicating about for years, as Dr. Cavalcanti was reminding us at the very beginning. The ICT working group of the BRICS operates since more than 10 years, but for some new BRICS member, this is a new environment. So it's very good to understand how Egypt is tailoring its meaningful connectivity policies and digital transformation strategies. So we have the pleasure today to have Dr. Hedaya Abdel-Ghaffar, who is Director of the Economic Affairs and the International Indicators Department of Egypt, and she will be followed by Dr. Riham Mouawad, who is a Digital Transformation Strategy Advisor at the Ministry of ICTs of Egypt. First, Dr. Hedaya, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Luca, for the introduction, and thanks to the Brazilian government and the BRICS for organizing this important dialogue. It's a good opportunity to present the Egyptian experience as a new member to the BRICS. in leveraging universal and meaningful connectivity across the country. So I would like to first shed light on how central the indicators are to the decision-making process inside the Egyptian Ministry of Communication Information Technology. So ICT indicators are integral. In following them, monitoring ICT indicators is integral to how decisions about policies and policy corrections are being internally made. This is done through some kind of a biennial SWOT analysis of a large amount of ICT indicators, including, of course, the universal and meaningful connectivity indicators. Accordingly, assigning responsibilities among different stakeholders to draft the needed policies and policy corrections. So we use the indicators at large for the ICT sector at large, and in particularly the universal and meaningful connectivity to feed the policy decision making, and to work on and decide upon the needed policy corrections. This is also done through a live internal dashboard of indicators, highlighting the recommended policies so that it would be feasible for the decision maker to include them in as much programs and initiatives as possible to provide the required remedies. This is helpful as well as a monitoring and evaluation mechanism for the Ministry of Communication Information Technology in order to proceed with the different areas of universal and meaningful connectivity. It's also important in addressing data gaps and scarcity that are present in some areas and working to fill them. So the UMC dashboard created by the ITU provides as well considerable input to the development of universal and meaningful connectivity inside MCIT and to drawing policies in this regard. The current status of Egypt shows targets being met in several indicators, such as mobile phone ownership with over 97%, high-speed fixed broadband with 99%, mobile broadband cost, Internet use gender parity with 96%, mobile phone use gender parity with 97%, mobile phone ownership gender parity with 97%. UMC status analysis shows many indicators in the advanced and satisfactory stage in Egypt, such as internet users, homes connected, fixed broadband cost, primary schools connected, lower and upper secondary schools connected. The dashboard of the ITU shows just one only indicator showing limited progress, which is the secondary schools connected. As for the connectivity enablers, Egypt is working hard to provide the highest possible level of infrastructure availability and connectivity, even in remote and rural areas. It's important here to shed light on the progress being done through the Presidential Decent Life Initiative, and how it strives to connect villages and remote areas and promote fiber infrastructure through the country for better and wider connectivity. This is a long-term initiative meant at providing universal and meaningful connectivity to the rural and marginalized areas, connecting communities and individuals and leveraging their digital skills. So up to the end of 2024, the initiative found that they made FTTH connections in around 378 villages, and throughout the initiative as well, more than 1,300 mobile towers were developed, with 789 newly established, and the other are developed. 4G coverage is approaching the full coverage nationwide, and 5G coverage being newly introduced. I invite you all to check the MCIT yearbook, which can be, I can paste the link in the chat box, for those interested in knowing more about the Decent Life Initiative achievements and how they are getting Egypt closer to meeting the UMC targets. This is being implemented taking into consideration achieving modest affordability through the smartphone ownership and subscriptions. And as I have mentioned above, Egypt has UMC targets met in relation to mobile ownership and cost. One very important connectivity enabler is promoting digital skills, where Egypt provides different training programs targeted for the whole population, with with its different ages and literacy levels, of course, with the backing of institutions like the Egyptian University of Informatics, the Information Technology Institute, the National Telecommunication Institute, among others. The last point to mention here is cybersecurity and how this plays an important role as a meaningful connectivity enabler, where Egypt has achieved a 100-point score in the ITU's Global Cybersecurity Index, providing a safe online environment for connectivity. So with all those programs and policies in place, and within the context of how integral indicators are to the decision-making process, we are positive Egypt will have more targets met towards UMC, universal and meaningful connectivity, in the very near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hedaya, and also for stressing how this connects very well with the idea of designing a process of digital transformation that has individuals at the center, so skilled, not only the expansion of the infrastructure, but also a secure digital environment. And this is actually a huge concern. And we have been dedicating a lot of time in our Cyber BRICS project in the first phase of it to analyze this. And actually, you remind us that when we started our analysis 6 years ago, the picture was, again, completely different from what we have today. 6 years in cybersecurity is like 60 years in any other kind of policy. So it's very important to have also metrics, and as you were mentioning, a toolkit to map the progress and understand in which direction the countries are moving. Now, to create a connection with what you were mentioning about digital transformation and meaningful connectivity, we have the pleasure to have Dr. Rihan Mowad here also illustrating which kind of thinking and strategies Egypt is putting in place to build upon meaningful connectivity in order to construct digital transformation. Please, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be there today. Actually, from listening to everyone and attending the presentation, there is a lot of in common. Keywords like digital inclusion, technology literacy, e-participation, citizen centricity, data-driven, evidence-based, working in silos, those are all drivers, enablers, and challenges the governments are facing to achieve the digital transformation. Is my screen shared now for everyone?
Yes, not yet in full screen mode, but we are sharing the screen.
Yeah, so now it's okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So I will try very briefly in 6 minutes to brief the journey of the digital transformation in Egypt. We would like always to start with this slide where the GovTech Maturity Index report published in 2022 have mapped Egypt's journey for the digital transformation in Group A, the leaders, and this was a great achievement by them to be recognized. After that, we would like to stress on the approach followed by the Egyptian government to achieve the digital transformation, where we focus on the whole of government and whole of society approach. In the digital transformation directions, we are trying very hard to enhance the government services, the online services provided to the citizen through a secured and reliable infrastructure, of course, to empower the government agencies as well, and to enhance the engagement of the government employees and the government agencies with the private sector to enhance the journey of developing and designing the online services, where this is one of the main challenges faced by the government, I think not only in Egypt, how to engage the government entities and the government employees in such a huge change and culture change. So through the institutional development process on the organizational level, we established the digital transformation units, where these units are scattered all over the government body. In each and every government entity, there is a unit to handle the digital transformation. So decentralization in implementation, but centralization in planning and decision making. Digital Egypt Company, this is a company owned by the state, owned by the government to monitor and govern the implementation of the digital transformation projects, of course, operational support, and a very severe and comprehensive private sector engagement. On the laws and regulations aspect, we have the Presidential Decree 511 that was published in 2022, and this reflects the very positive and affirmative support provided by the highest management level in the country to the digital transformation. Also, the data protection law that was announced in 2018. And we are working now on publishing the data classification, exchange, and availing law, which will govern the relationship between the government entities, also the classification of the data and the levels and rules of exchanging. The presidential decree works on supporting digital transformation efforts, of course, strategic planning and annual executive plans, highly efficiency and secured infrastructure, government services, applications and data governance, efficient project management, and guarantee a sustainable digital operation. Through the presidential decree, the Supreme Council for Digital Transformation was established with its 5 committees, which they are taking care of the projects, the operation, the security, the legislative, and the data center operation and planning projects for the digital transformation. For the data and services of the online services, we are working more and more towards changing the culture and the mindset of the planning, the designing, and the developing towards the citizen centricity and the data-driven evidence-based approach in decision-making and policy-making. This is how we perceive, and actually we are implementing this today. We have a full citizen 360 view, land and property 360, and the companies 360 as well. How we are doing this is through a huge initiative, national initiative of integrating all the databases and registries of the government to form the information infrastructure baseline for the government. We are moving also from the application perspective to the platform perspective, where we are dividing the government to a number of service domains, and every service domain is presented through a platform where they provide the government online services through one single platform. This is Digital Egypt. Public administration services platforms, we are working today on 3 of them, and the pipeline is having much more. We have the social protection platform, which is representing the social protection service domain. We have the labor platform. We have the economic establishments, which is taking care of all the economic companies, firms, and organizations since the birth until the exit of the company. Egypt launched its participation to the GovStack in 2022 with a pioneer implementation and a big ceremonial, actually, with the GIZ, ITU, the World Bank, Estonian government. We have managed to start working on the GovStack common components with all the principles of reusability, open source application to guarantee the sovereignty of the public sector, of course, the ease and simplicity of administrative application, multiple use cases, and the scalability and expandability, all the principles of the GovStack. Of course, for the shared services, we are working on the G2G. This is something similar, of course, to the X-Road of Estonia, digital identity, information mediator, the event management, all the common components. We have been working on them since then and until now. It's in use, it's in complete in use through the Digital Egypt platform. For the Digital Egypt platform, we have 9 million registered citizens, 11 million transactions, 180 services provided online, digital end-to-end, 11 mini apps, and 14 service bundles. And this is all published and used by the Egyptian citizens this is the 3rd year. Government services, the design of the service is based on the citizen lifetime event journey from birth till death. All the events that the citizen goes through trigger and fire a number of government services and processes to be followed by the providing of the service, so that the citizen wants see the government as a seamless platform. They don't know exactly which government entity is providing the service, and this is a citizen centricity approach. Government platforms design principles. We are focusing on the public administration reform, adjustment of government processes to reduce the paperwork, digital services to be proactive, integrated, seamless, and cognitive. Of course, efficient management of the public sector expenditure, enhancing the data quality, and we have cloud by design and cybersecurity, one of our main focus, of course. So this is the GovTech Innovation Lab platform, where we have like an ecosystem for the accelerators to join and engage the private sector within the engagement with the government entities to provide better services. And here the services would be provided on both government and private sector scale. These are some.
May I ask you to wrap up? Okay. May I ask you to wrap up in 1 minute, please?
Yeah, okay. So these are some pictures and photos for the engagement, the meetup nights, and the boot camp, where we get together the government entities hand in hand in a boot camp with the startups to work on enhancing the government services. For the platforms, we have the social protection platform, where we focus on the impact to design the government services provision. The social protection events and the shocks would trigger the services, as I mentioned. We have also the platform of economic establishments, and we are enhancing and cleaning the administrative data on the way, parallel with the implementation of the platforms. And as a conclusion, we always say that digital transformation is not a technology project, it's a complete mindset.
All right, I think we have some connectivity problem with Dr. Riam in this moment, but well, let's move ahead. Thank you very much. You're back with us. Thank you very much, Dr. Riam. Excellent presentation. And actually, it really allows to understand even more also the role that the public sector has in spearheading this kind of process. And also, I was very much interested in your effort in categorizing data and considering data security and cybersecurity as key priorities, also developing all the public services based on the lifetime of the individual. This is very interesting and actually brings us to the next step of our journey today, where we start to understand the importance also to have a sectorial view and to connect this sectorial view with the overall process. And so I would like to ask Dr. Yu Tong, who is professor at the School of Management of Zhejiang University, to give us a little bit of overview of what China is doing, especially with regard to the digital transformation of the manufacturing sector and how this connects with the larger picture of the Chinese digital transformation. Please, Dr. Yu Tong, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear expert from the BRICS countries, so it's my great honor to participate in this event. Nowadays, cutting-edge technologies such as 5G, big data, cloud computing, and AI have been deeply integrated into the real economy. So we can say IT have been embedded at an inevitable trend. In the manufacturing sector, the Chinese government has placed a very high priority on advancing in industrial informatization through the joint effort of all the stakeholders from the government, industry, academia, research institutions, and application sectors. China's manufacturing industry has continuously made new progress and achievement. So I will now share some of them. So first, we can say a very systematic work structures is rapidly taking place. Driven by the technological revolution, industrial transformation continues to deepen. Governments at all levels are promoting digital transformation of manufacturing, guiding the enterprises, universities, research institutes, and financial institutions to collaborate. With this, we have increased the resource investment. We can see more innovations and rapid upgrading of the industry places. So in the area of manufacturing, production, corporate structure, business model, and employment paradigms. Second, the policy support system has been steadily refined. At the country level, strategic policies have been issued in relation to the industrial internet, digital transformation, and the digital economy. At the industry sector level, we can say specific policies have been issued, such as the development plan for the deep integration of informatization and industrialization, and implementation guidelines for the digital transformation of manufacturing enterprises. So we can say all these policies have defined the objective, key task, and actionable pathway for the digital transformation of manufacturing enterprises. About 20 provincial level regions have already introduced the related policies and forming a central local linkage policy support framework. Third, we can say foundational capabilities have been strengthened. So today, industrial internet applications have already covered 49 national economic sectors, including all major industrial categories. China has built the world's largest information and communication network with about 4.04 million 5G base stations. Data center rack capacity exceeds 8.3 million standard units, placing computing infrastructure at the global forefront. The industrial internet innovation development strategies have been rigorously implemented. We can see over 340 inferential platforms have emerged with more than 100 million connected industrial devices. And some platforms are customized to serve the SMEs with lightweight solutions, low-code development tools, and cost-effective applications. Fourth, the outcome of the digital transformation are increasingly evident. So new technologies are empowering the entire processes of manufacturing and the supply chain. Major enterprises have achieved 82.7% adoption rate of the digital R&D tools and about 65.3% penetration rate of the numeric control in the critical production process. So China has already recognized about 99 digital pioneer enterprises with over 10,000 digital workshops and smart factories. Important improvements can be seen in operational efficiency, cost reduction, resource optimization, and development. So last, we can say international collaboration has been continuously fostered. China have actively participated in the developing international standards, including the digital supply chain maturity model and the digital supply chain architecture. So all those efforts has guided enterprises to elevate their technology adoption. At the same time, a public service ecosystem has been established, offering the support of policy assessment, supply chain demand matching. High-level international forums like the BRICS Industrial Internet and the Digital Manufacturing Development Forum, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Digital Technology Cooperation Forum, have been accelerated this cross-border exchange and collaboration. So in the future, it will be great that the BRIC countries could further strengthen the collaboration in the infrastructure development, standard for formulation, and ecosystem building. So by improving the collaboration mechanism and the resource sharing, we can build an open, synergistic innovation ecosystem for the digital transformation, for resilient and sustainable economic growth. And the BRIC nation can continue leading the global digital transformation and fostering the very fair international competition. So all those are some of my observations and reflection on the digital transformation in the manufacturing sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Yutong. And actually, let me also provide a little bit of logistic advice as we are a little bit running a little bit late. I hope everyone will allow me to extend by 10 minutes the time so that we have time for having both the final presentations and also 5 minutes because we have one question on Slido from those who are following us. So which is about how BRICS countries can coordinate their approaches in digital transformation. So we left this as a final question for final remarks from speakers. And now let's get into the two final questions. One, I think, building very well on what Yutong was mentioning about the digital transformation of specific sectors, and the other one broader on the impact on the economy of digital transformation. So let's start with Ekaterina Martinova, who is lecturer at the Higher School of Economics and was our Cyber BRICS Fellow here last year. Please, Ekaterina, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Professor Luca. Thanks for the invitation. It is actually a pleasure for me to be here. I will be very brief and will give some general overview, maybe not that detailed in technical terms, about the process of digital transformation in Russia, mainly focusing on the challenges and the maybe problems which we face now. And I will start with mentioning that nowadays almost 93% of Russian citizens are connected to the internet, so making the country one of the leaders globally on the internet coverage. And the process of digital transformation started in the early 2000s, and it could be quite a success story, if not some particular challenges, which I will mention. And when this process started, it was very clear that the goal for the whole process was the establishment of the electronic government and the digitalization of public services in the first place. And what was manifested are the increase of the role of the democracy institutions, more transparency, accountability, convenience for the citizens. And actually, it was the demand in the Russian society then, following the perestroika era and the early years after the Soviet Union collapsed. So everybody was keen about this, like democracy and participation. And then this process was launched with this purpose in mind. And as a result, we have now the portal quite known for researches about the digital transformation, the Gosuslugi, where we have almost all possible public services now digitalized, which makes it quite a convenient service for the citizens. And also as side effects, we have the decrease in the levels of corruption, decrease of budgetary spendings on this bureaucracy machine, and a boost to the IT sector in general. But this story, quite successful, turned a bit at the background of the Crimea crisis in 2014, when we see what is called by the political scientists the conservative turn in the Russian policies, both internal and foreign policies. And we see change generally in the attitudes, and this change also has the impact on the digital transformation process, because now it is no more the human-centered process, but mostly about the state and state interests, national security. And we see for the first time then, and we see it now in an even more scale, what is called now the digital technological independence and sovereignization of everything, sovereignization of economy to be resistant to sanctions pressure, sovereignization of technology to be independent from foreign software and IT providers. And in the strategy of 2017, the key goal was the creation of national ICTs, creation of national software. And we have a lot of investments in these fields to make the Russian technology sphere generally independent of any foreign decisions and solutions. And also we have two very important laws here about localization of data and the sovereign RUNET, the Russian segment of the internet. To make it very short, I would just mention that the sovereign RUNET law makes it technologically possible for our regulator, Roskomnadzor, to shut the Russian segment of the global system. So it is now how we have it. And it was made through the requirements to telecom operators to establish special equipment and also to participate in these drills by Roskomnadzor, so that to be sure that this independence is technologically possible. So what we have now is a focus of cybersecurity. For obvious reasons, amidst the hostilities in Ukraine, Russia is a target of a lot of cyber attacks. And so to sum up, I would say that this process, this 25 years journey, which started as a very human and citizens-oriented process, now is mostly about the state interests, sovereignty, technological independence, security, also ambitious for being a leader or in artificial intelligence, but it should be understood in a more broad context of political, social, cultural transformations, which we have now been in a quarrel with Europe in particular. And so the public rhetorics of being with our own interests, with our cultural understanding, with our values understanding. So we see it as one of the features of a more general political process which we have now amidst the current geopolitical situation. And it makes it even more important for Russian government to underline the connection with the like-minded states, the BRICS countries, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries, China on a bilateral level. So I think that our development will be in the upcoming years more on discussing with like-minded states and enhancing technological independence even more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katerina, for these very insightful comments on the journey of Russia and its digital transformation over the past 25 years. And actually, what also gives us some food for thought in terms of digital sovereignty and the various nuances and flavors it can have, and also the need to consider all what we are discussing, not only from the specific local perspective, but also in the perspective of global geopolitical and political events that, of course, bring further complexity to the digital transformation itself. Now, to conclude our speeches of today, I would like to ask Ibrahim Mama Hussein from the Digital Impact Alliance in Ethiopia to provide us an understanding of how Ethiopia, this newcomer in the BRICS grouping, is implementing its digital transformation, and also to some extent how this new entrance in the BRICS grouping could impact Ethiopia's journey to digital transformation. Please, Ibrahim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Luca. I hope you can all see my screen. Let me share my PowerPoint. I'll be quite brief. Ethiopia as a newcomer into the digital economy space, and also Ethiopia as a newcomer into the BRICS, as a new entrant into the BRICS. It's currently focused on advancing its digital transformation in order to build a very strong digital economy based on a meaningful connectivity and ensuring an equitable, safe and sound and secure digital economy space. To do so, in 2020, Ethiopia has launched its digital transformation strategy, which focused on building a strong digital economy and then charting the way forward for creating diversification, job creation, and inclusion for the digital economy. And so, in so doing, currently is the end of the first phase of the Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy, and we're working on the ensuing Ethiopia Digital 2030 strategy. Obviously, it's based on global practices, and we're looking at the experiences of entities like India, the work of Brazil, and other parts of the rest of the world in building a digital public infrastructure that is essential for ensuring foundational core digital components are in place. And having said so, we have just recently launched our national digital ID program, and this digital ID program is focused on registering 90 million people with the whole focus of ensuring that people have the ability to engage with the digital economy effectively. This is based on a modular open source platform in India. We take a lot of lessons from what India has done. As luck would have it, currently I'm in Bangalore looking at the different various digital public infrastructure of the Indian experience. Most importantly, in advancing the connectivity, Ethiopia has opened up the telecom sector, which was a monopoly for over 100 years. We have two operators right now, the Ethiopian telecommunication entity, Ethio Telecom, and attracted Safaricom as well to help expand the connectivity. Now, this is all based on the concept that, expanding the broadband access will help increase, at least according to the World Bank study, additional 10% increase in 10% increase in broadband will increase the GDP by 1.4%. So Ethiopia has invested a lot in expanding the telecom sector. As of recent, the sector has garnered more than $1 billion in annual revenue and then expanded its subscriber base. Safaricom, the newcomer, in its less than 2 years operation, has actually bring together additional 7.1 million users and showing the sector's potential to actually grow further. In the financial inclusion space, both operators have launched, and M-Pesa, as you know very well, has a very good traction in Kenya. And from the start, the Telebirr and M-Pesa together are currently serving more than 60 million users and rapidly digitizing the digital payment space, and then providing services in agriculture, retail industry, services and transport. Now the whole focus is in financing and digital finance ecosystem to open new pathways for micro small enterprises, especially in underserved areas where the access for credits and savings and insurance products are quite limited with a diversified digital product. Most importantly, the expanded network availability has created a lot of opportunities for jobs, what we call the freelance, open source, and gig work industry. We have seen a proliferation of taxi and ride-hailing apps, a lot of platforms such as Gebeya providing freelance jobs, but at the same time, global employability, all driving towards the Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy of creating more than 300,000 digital jobs in the country. And this is actually coming into effect and expected to actually grow in the coming few years. But there are challenges ahead. We have currently a digital divide with an internet penetration of 21.3% and only 33% of our population having access to 4G. Our hard infrastructure also has a big gap, and a major issue is broadband reliability, as the country is rough and rugged, and availability of power is usually very low. Smartphone penetration is also a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge. And most importantly, investing in human skills, as we have less than 20% of the population having basic digital skills that are critical for engaging with the digital economy. But also on the base of this is having weak policy and regulatory constraints, and which we're currently working on. As a public policy measure, countries engaged in developing forward-looking and people-centered policy infrastructure, one of them being availing critical financial services to ensure universal service funds for, and then promoting private sector investment in the digital economy, expanding hard infrastructure, most importantly, fiber to the home, in order to ensure connectivity is quite stable. Device accessibility, promoting investment in the device industry, in the production, importation, and at the same time, low-cost smartphones availability, and then provision of finance and microcredit for accessing low-cost smartphones. Going forward, the country is charting a new skills and digital job strategy. As we speak, and I have the privilege to work on the country's first national data governance and trust framework. We're expecting to have this enacted and published by the next couple of months with the support of the Gates Foundation. We're strengthening institutional coordination. Currently, we have launched the Ethiopian Artificial Intelligence Institute, but also we're having the National Digital Council being led under the Office of the Prime Minister to ensure strong enforceability of policy and practices. We're an aspiring country with the potential to grow, and then we are 128 million population with the capability to create a strong digital economy. Thank you. Over to you, Professor Luca.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for this really great presentation and also for highlighting the potential of Ethiopia and in general. I think there is a lot of excitement with the new members of the BRICS group coming, and also the way in which mutual learning can happen. You very well explicate this with your example of Ethiopia learning from India, and the fact that you in this moment are in India in this learning process and trying to learn from maybe success stories, but also from failures, because I think that one has, I think for us academic, the privilege we have is that we can analyze both the success stories and the failures, and learning from this and trying to blend them in order to find a sustainable way of digital growth and digital transformation. Now, I would like to open the floor from final considerations, as we have a question from those who are following us in the Slido platform on how BRICS countries can coordinate their approaches to digital transformation. Maybe this is a very large question. I mean, we might defer this for an answer to Dr. Daniel Cavalcanti, because he is coordinating the BRICS work group on ICT, so that could be a very good way of concluding. And if anyone in our speakers that is still here wants to provide a final remark based on this question or any other comments they wish to share to conclude this webinar, this is the moment. So maybe I will start with Daniel Cavalcanti and then a quick round of comments. Please raise your hand if you want to comment.
So thank you very much, Professor Lucaveri, and let me just from the outset say what an excellent event this has been, and to see a mix of both traditional BRICS, India, China, and the new BRICS, Egypt, Ethiopia, so a very nice mix. And this final question is almost a given for me, because it gives me a chance to mention some of the established mechanisms we have for cooperation within our BRICS ICT working group. So we not only have our annual meeting, and it sort of rotates between the different BRICS every year. Next year it will be India. So what I would like to say is that we have a formal mechanism, which is called the BRICS Institute of Future Networks. We're extending every year a call for the new BRICS to join this institute. And the way you do this is you designate one institution within your country, which is the anchor institution. For example, in China, it's the China Academy of ICTs, CAICT. In Brazil, it is CPQD, a research center based in Campinas, Brazil, which is not to say that only one institute participates. That this is the anchor institute, which should support other institutions within their countries to engage in the BRICS ICT working. I should mention India has also designated CDOT as their anchor institution within the BRICS ICT working group. So these are all sort of the formal engagement within the so-called BRICS Institute of Future Networks. Besides that, we have multi-stakeholder engagement, which takes place every year. So we have, as part of our BRICS ICT working group meetings, which lead to a ministerial meeting, which then approves the declaration, we have in parallel what we call the Digital BRICS Forum, which takes place every year. It is hosted by the country who is leading that year. And in this multi-stakeholder environment, we have different panels, different presentations, and indeed an exhibit, a possibility of an exhibit of new developments in each country, which are relevant to the works of the BRICS ICT working group, whether hardware, software, systems, whatever. So there are many opportunities of engagement. And last but not least, there are what we call the side events during the presidency. And this meeting today is one of the typical side events we have within the scope. We had just a few weeks ago a side event on digital technologies in environmental sustainability, which ties into Brazil's presidency of the COP later on this year, COP 30, on climate change. So you see, we try to have an engagement both based on the leadership of the host country, which then can select a number of side events and what they would like to do at the Digital BRICS Forum. But we also have this more formal form of engagement and cooperation through the BRICS Institute of Future Networks. And the message is out. I'm sure Egypt and Ethiopia, for example, are considering what institution they will designate to the BRICS Institute of Future Network, and the same with the others. I understand that we have online other countries here, and we'll reinforce that in our upcoming meeting. Just to remind you, 6th of May, our meeting is still online, and then towards the end of May, we're going to have in-person meetings in Brasilia of the BRICS ICT Working Group. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you all, and thank you especially Professor Luca Belli. I've remained here online for this remaining part of the conversation. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think that actually this was an excellent way of wrapping up and concluding the conversation of today. Unfortunately, the expansion of the BRICS brings us an additional challenge of having to manage 11 different speakers at any meetings, at least. So I hope that the speakers will pardon me if I now declare close this session, knowing that we are already 10 minutes out of time. So I would like to thank everyone for their excellent contributions. This entire webinar will be shared on our social media and on the FGV YouTube channel. I would like to especially thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Communications, Cetic, and the ITU for their support in this effort. I would really like to thank wholeheartedly all the participants, and also I would also like to stress, and this was a random coincidence, not necessarily combined, that we have demonstrated with today's workshop that most of the specialists of ICTs and digital issues now are female. So it's very good. I think Sonia will be particularly happy about this, because this is something we have been also working for 10 years to give visibility to the fact that there is a very large component of very highly skilled and qualified women that deserve to have a majority role in the ICT environment, being them the demographic majority that we have. So to conclude, I think this is an excellent note of optimism, and I would like to thank everyone that has followed us today. And our next webinar will be on the 20th of May and will be dedicated to data governance in the BRICS. So if you are interested in this, please follow us and participate in the next webinar. Thank you very much to everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.